the dusty streets of Washington, D.C. The new posse rides in, led by the chief lawman Donald Trump with his steely resolve and determination. He is hell-bent on returning our nation back to her former glory. Beside him, J.D. Vance, the sharp-eyed, quick-witted right-hand hombre, is there to help him make America great again. Elon Musk, the tech-savvy inventor and steadfast champion of free speech, has plans to cut out the political pork that plagued our land. RFK Jr., the truth seeker, and Tulsi Gabbard, the fearless warrior, are determined to expose the lies the deep state has sold it for half a century. Then there's Russ Vought, the iron-willed regulator who will make sure President Trump's Agenda 47 is carried out and has the funds it needs to be successful. Pete Hegseth, the battle-hardened patriot, fights to defend the values that built this country. Together, they aim to cleanse the capital of its corrupt varmints, to uproot the deep state, and to restore justice to a land long overrun by shadowy outlaws.
No, make no mistake. It's not revenge he's after. It's reckoning.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Today is March 11th, 2025. I hope everybody's doing absolutely amazing today. Boy, oh boy, we got some stuff to get into today. I got some lint in my hair. Boom, there it is, out. The lint is out my hair. Shout out to everybody watching. Drop your comments down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Also, when you're watching this, if you want to fast forward or skip to specific stories, there will be timestamps in the bottom of this video in the description, so you can jump from story to story, just in case you're like, I don't want to listen to this one. You can jump to the next one, or you can come back. Ideally, I want you to watch the entire thing, but before you hit the timestamps, hit the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithms. Come on. Today, we are jumping into Biden's Autopen signature. He signed most of the documents with this Autopen signature, like a DocuSign. Does this mean that the pardons are going to stand up? Does this mean that everything that he's signed is going to stand up? I don't know. We're going to talk about Ukraine proposed a ceasefire deal today, March 11th, 2025. We're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard stripping access from Biden top aides and prosecutors. Get this, over $37 billion on homeless was spent in 2019 in California. This is what recent audits reveal. The stock market continues to fall during this economic uncertainty or turbulence, if you would. But again, remember, guys, this is what we voted for, okay? We have to fix things. We got to pull off the Band-Aid. It's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to sting. But at the end of the day, it's going to be beneficial for our country. We're going to jump into the dark days of Canada that are ahead. This is what experts warn. We are going to speak about Speaker Mike Johnson calls out the Dems and AOC and the absolute disaster in California. All right. Let's jump into this top story today. Biden's Autopen signature on most official documents. Can you believe that? This is absolutely crazy here. Let me get this banner right. Boom. Biden's Autopen signature on most official documents, according to Oversight Project. Who was running the Biden administration? This is an article from One America News. The question is coming from Mike Howell, Executive Director of Oversight Project. Their latest investigation shows documents bearing President Biden's signatures throughout his presidency was signed by an Autopen. The dude wasn't even there. We're going to get into when and where he signed these particular documents and how he signed them.
Revelations suggest that every document bearing President Biden's signature throughout his presidency was signed using an Autopen, except for one. That's according to the Oversight Project, an investigative arm of the Heritage Foundation. Joining us now to talk about this is Mike Howell. He is the executive director of the Oversight Project. Mike, thank you so much for being here. Wow, this is interesting. So there, we know there were a lot of concerns about Biden's cognitive decline. What led down this discovery, and what are the bigger implications?
So this is huge. We're going to figure out who was actually the president over the last 4 years. One of the means to really, provide an instrumentality for President Biden, not himself to be in power, was a prolific use of the Autopen. We went through thousands of pages of documents, and for most everything, it is a Autopen. And I'm holding up here. It's going to be hard to make out. But if you look at these presidential pardons, they need to be signed with a wet signature. They're not. They're signed with an Autopen. So what should happen to them is they should get tossed out. And I think as we continue this investigation, we're going to figure out who was actually making the calls, when to apply the Autopen, use the Autopen. We've come across information where Biden's on a golf course in the Virgin Islands, and things are being signed from Washington, D.C. It doesn't add up.
Explain to me, the viewers, because many of us may not even understand how this works. Is using an Autopen something all presidents do sometimes?
No, it's not. President Trump applies wet signatures, particularly to documents like, legislation or, pardons or anything where he's asserting the presidential power. Republican presidents have not used the Autopen for things like that. It's used in some instances for like thank you notes and cards and mass mailers that go out, but not for things that are squarely the presidential's constitutional authority. Biden is the stark departure in this practice, using it that prolifically.
Wait.
Just think about this, guys. We'll continue to jump into this video, but think about this. This guy was using an Autopen. He was using an auto signature, right? They do have electronic mobile notaries now. But in this particular situation, when he was signing particular pardons and executive orders, he was using an Autopen, or somebody was using an Autopen. There's a situation where Joe Biden was on vacation, and he coincidentally signed the same document. This is a recent discovery that he's been using this Autopen the majority of his term.
So you're saying that Republican presidents have never used an Autopen to sign, important documents?
Not on the categories of documents like legislation or executive orders or pardons. President Trump signs them on camera for all to see. I'm not saying that the Autopen's not used for, like commemorative materials or those types of things, but things that are squarely presidential authority, the Autopen is not used.
I'm just trying to make sense of this because this seems like a big deal. So what happens to the documents that were signed via an Autopen, and are legal experts going to weigh in?
Yeah, they already have. Legal experts have been reaching out to the Oversight Project since we made these disclosures. People are raising some very serious constitutional issues as to what the legal effect of those documents should be now. If you recall, towards the end of the first Trump administration, Acting Secretary Chad Wolf at DHS had his authority questioned, and the left sued, quite a bit to come up the works that he was basically, in their argument, acting without authority. I think the same kind of legal principles at play here. But over the course of this investigation, what will necessarily be uncovered is who was exercising the president's authority for him. When you weigh this against, his own Department of Justice and Special Counsel Hur saying that he was mentally unfit to stand trial, and the numerous missteps and public kind of gaffes, it's abundantly clear that he was not exercising his full cognitive abilities. And so how they got through day to day was relying on this Autopen. And we need to know who was making those calls, if President Biden actually affirmatively knew what was going on or even signed off on those things, even verbally.
All of this was happening as they were gaslighting the public. So many of us were talking about his cognitive, decline from the beginning. And we were told, no, nothing's happening until it got really, really bad. And I don't know how they didn't see it, but, it was, on the world stage. Can you talk about, the context of all of this and the 25th Amendment? Explain it first to our viewers. And was there a deliberate effort to then undermine the constitutional process?
100%. I mean, all this is happening in the backdrop of the left screaming and crying that that last election was in defense of democracy and Trump was an attack on democracy. Well, there's nothing more anti-democratic than not having the president that people voted for, exercising the powers of the presidency and having someone else do it. So the 25th Amendment here comes into play. After JFK was assassinated, on a bipartisan basis, people got together, our leaders, and pushed forward the 25th Amendment to our Constitution, which outlined exactly what you do in the case of presidential incapacitation. And what it does not say is you just give someone else the Autopen and let them be president. No, it's a process to go through. So instead of invoking the 25th Amendment, which they obviously should have, Vice President Harris and the cabinet, because it was abundantly clear to everybody what was going on, they chose not to, and instead to rely on basically acting through other people to express the power of the presidency. It's a workaround of the 25th Amendment, and it might give rise to the need to update the 25th Amendment. But to get there, we need all the details about who was actually the president over the next 4 years, and that's where our investigation is going.
Mike, who do we think you guys, your investigation, think was running the White House?
Joe Biden.
I think you're going to find a cast of characters like Jake Sullivan, Anthony Blinken, Neera Tanden, all those people who had kind of those central roles are going to be involved in this.
Okay. Well, there's part 2 of this investigation coming up soon. When can we expect it? I want to see it all.
Yeah, so do we. We want you all to see it. We just released some new findings right before I came on about Biden's being on vacation in the Virgin Islands when documents were coming out with his signature saying they were signed in D.C. Now, that doesn't add up.
You buried the lead, Mike. You didn't tell me this. Yeah, I didn't know there was another part to this. Wait, tell us about that. I have to know about.
We're going to jump into that part here in a minute, but I wanted to talk about Speaker Mike Johnson. Speaker Mike Johnson had a meeting with President Biden in the Oval Office, and there were some executive orders signed, and Mike Johnson says, hey, I can't believe that you signed these particular documents. And Joe Biden's like, I don't remember signing, I didn't sign nothing. Well, Mike Johnson spilled the tea here. Here we go.
Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr.
So the volume on this is a little low, but bear with me.
President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir.
He didn't even know what he was signing. I'm not even going to, because the volume's a little low on this, so I'm not even going to continue with this. But Mike Johnson had this conversation with him about the natural gas situation, this executive order. Joe Biden said, I didn't sign anything. Yes, you did. Mike Johnson says, yes, you did. You signed this thing. And he says, no, I didn't. And then he goes, oh, yeah, I remember. But this gentleman was too elderly, if you would, to stand trial for the documents case. And yet, he's signing pardons. This was crazy. This is what Ms. Hubba had to say. She would like to challenge the validity of Biden's Autopen pardons, FBI and DOJ working around the clock. Attorney Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel will make sure justice is brought to high-profile individuals involving in fraudulent federal government spending uncovered by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOJ. Hubba says they're looking at many of the Democrats involved in various fraud schemes, including $50 million to send condoms to Gaza and other USAID fraud hidden in NGOs, basically nonprofits. Some of these potential suspects she named are former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Pocahontas.
Going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs. We're going to have open factories. It's going to be great, and the plane is landing, and thank you for a lot of good questions.
Alina Hobb is a counselor to President Trump. You've traveled with the president on Air Force One. What's it like when he goes back and talks to the press? Is it hostile? Is it strange?
No, not at all. I mean, first of all, he can willingly go there, and he does because he's not afraid to answer questions. But no, it's not hostile at all. They ask questions. They ask him questions like they do all day, which is what we see from President Trump. I mean, the insomnia comment, Jesse, I just have to go back to it. I mean, the only people that should be losing sleep right now are the Democrat Party. It's the Nancy Pelosi's who we're looking at. It's the Liz Cheney's, Pocahontas. We're looking at all that stuff, and we're going to find out why you're so rich on government money. There's just so much to go into. I don't even know where to start. But who would you want running your country, Jesse? You want to get advice from Stacey Abrams and Joe Biden, who evidently signed everything with an auto signature, didn't even know what he was signing? Or do you want Elon Musk to help the commander in chief, and there's only one, President Donald Trump, cut waste and make us money? The man is a self-made billionaire. He ran an amazing company. He will run this country that way. So, I mean, look, the proof is in the pudding right there.
You see a lot of this money going out the door, and it's very sketchy. And it always ends up in the hands of Democrats who happen to know Democrats who are handing out the money. This has to be looked into. Is the Department of Justice looking into this very severely?
I'm not going to speak for Pam Bondi. I'll tell you this. I am part of the administration. Pam Bondi is amazing. I saw Cash and Pam today for a swearing-in ceremony. Listen, these people work so hard. There is so much information that we are finding out and revealing that they're all working around the clock just to make sure we bring justice to the people that appropriately need to be brought to justice. Those are people that were stealing from the American people, that were hiding it through NGOs, that were hiding it through funds, through operas in Colombia and condoms to Gaza and all of that. Those people need to be held accountable. That's how you deter them from the future. And I can assure you that Cash and Pam will make sure of that.
I guess they should have handed out more preemptive pardons, you're saying.
Listen, by the way, I wonder if those were auto-signed as well, because I would challenge the validity of it. You never know. Listen, the guy didn't even know what he was doing, but I'll tell you, the pardons, he knew what he was doing. I said it months before. He's going to pardon himself. And yes, I almost said to the president, listen, in the joint session speech, why don't you ask everybody that got a pardon to just stand up and tell us why you got a pardon.
Well, we know Joe Biden doesn't have insomnia. We definitely saw proof of that. Alina Habba, great.
So they're continuing to investigate the validity of these signatures and when Joe Biden signed these things, because with an Autopen, you can just log in to a particular website like DocuSign. If you guys aren't familiar with DocuSign, it is an electronic signature platform where you pre-sign your signature on the screen, on the telephone, or wherever it is, and you can insert it in particular areas of the document. And this is what Joe Biden was using. And Alina Habba, Trump team, they're looking to expose all of this. This recent article from the Gateway Pundit shows that who was behind the Autopen? 6 criminals were pardoned with Biden's Autopen signed in the city of Washington the same day Joe Biden vacationed and golfed. Last week, Attorney General Andrew Bailey asked the Justice Department to investigate whether White House staffers exploited Joe Biden's cognitive decline and issued far-left orders at the end of his presidency without his knowledge. Let me know what you guys think about that. This is one of the most corrupt administrations of all time. Whoever controlled the Autopen controlled the presidency. This is from Oversight Project. We gathered every document we could find with Biden's signature over the course of his presidency, all used with the same Autopen and signature. Wow. Biden's Autopen scandal is growing day by day. Monday, the Oversight Project revealed 6 criminal pardons. 6 criminals were pardoned by Biden's Autopen on December 30th. 2022, while Joe Biden was on vacation. He was vacationing in the Virgin Islands playing golf. Let me know what you guys think about this. The Joe Biden signature scandal. one, at least in my opinion, my personal opinion, one of the most corrupt administrations, one of the worst administrations. This is just my personal opinion of all time. Let me know if you think the same thing. Let me know if you think or feel the same way. We are going to jump into the next story. Where is it at? Here it is, right here. Ukraine to propose its own. Oh, yes. Ukraine agrees to a 30-day ceasefire. Kudos. Ukraine is ready to agree to a 30-day ceasefire with Russia. U.S. to resume weapon shipments. The State Department said, this is an article by Latin Times. The announcement, Ukraine officially said on Tuesday that it is open to reaching a 30-day ceasefire agreement with Russia should Moscow approve, leading the U.S. to resume weapon shipments and intelligence to Crimea. The announcement took place following the discussion between U.S. and Ukraine. Officials in Saudi Arabia focusing on ending the war. President Trump's special envoy expected to travel to Moscow later this week. They met with President Vladimir Putin to get the country's response in this particular matter. Details of the potential ceasefire have not been disclosed, but Associated Press, who's been kicked out of the White House, reported earlier on Tuesday that it would cover the Black Sea and long-range missile strikes, as well as the release of prisoners. Another report from Bloomberg cautioned that Western security officials believe Russia President Mr. Putin has no intention of compromising on the land, peacekeep, and Ukraine neutrality demands, potentially conflicting with positive outcome. Let's jump into what Marco Rubio had to say about this.
Now we're going to go and listen in to Secretary Rubio here after his post-Ukraine meeting. Let's listen into what he has to say.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally we both want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process, and we're very grateful to them for hosting us here today. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians, and we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball is now in their court. And but again, the president's objective here is, number one, above everything else, he wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate.
Well, just to add to the Secretary's comments, the Ukrainian delegation today made something very clear, that they share President Trump's vision for peace. They share his determination to end the fighting, to end the killing, to end the tragic meat grinder of people and national treasure that's happening on the front in Ukraine. Number one. Number two, they made concrete steps and concrete proposals, not only accepting our proposal for a full ceasefire, which you can see the details of which are in our joint statement that we released together, but we also got into substantive details on how this war is going to permanently end, what type of guarantees they're going to have for their long-term security and prosperity, but also really looking at what it's going to take to finally end this, the horrific fighting. The other piece that I just want to make very clear is President Trump started this diplomatic effort in the Oval Office, talking to both leaders, both President Putin and President Zelensky back to back. And now that shuttle diplomacy continues. We have a named delegation in terms of next steps from the Russian side. We have a named delegation in terms of next steps from the Ukrainian side. I will talk to my Russian counterpart in the coming days Secretary Rubio will be with G7 foreign ministers in the next couple of days. We have the NATO Secretary General in the White House on Thursday, and we'll take the process forward from there. So, as a result of that, and I think as a result of this positive step forward, the president has decided to lift the pause on aid and on our security assistance to Ukraine going forward, and that's effective immediately.
All right, your colleagues have chosen 3 questioners. Let's start with Alex Marquardt of CNN.
Thank you. Several questions on the ceasefire. We understood that coming into this was a Ukrainian proposal for a partial ceasefire. How did this become an American proposal for an immediate 30-day ceasefire? And to be clear, you're talking about a complete ceasefire across the front line, not just the aerial and maritime ceasefire that the Ukrainians proposed. And then finally, how do you expect to take this to the Russians? Is it Mr. Witkoff, who we understand is heading to Moscow later this week? Will he deliver that to Putin? Will it be President Trump to President Putin? Will it be you and your counterparts? How will that actually happen and when?
Well, on the first point, your question is yes. That's the offer. The offer is to stop the shooting. The goal here is the only way out to end this war is to negotiate out of it. There's no military solution to this war. The solution to this war and the way to end it and to achieve the president's objective of peace is to negotiate. But before you can negotiate, you have to stop shooting at each other. And that's what the president has wanted to see. And that's the commitment we got today from the Ukrainian side, their willingness to do that. Obviously, now that'll be delivered to the Russians. It'll be delivered to them directly through multiple channels, meaning not only will they obviously see it, it'll be communicated to them through our diplomatic channels, through conversations and other methods, but they'll obviously be well aware. And our hope is that the Russians will say yes, that they will also agree. So the shooting will stop, the killing will stop, the dying will stop, and the talks can begin about how to end this war permanently in a way that's acceptable and enduring for both sides.
Look, there's been all kinds of discussions in terms of different types of ceasefires. You know, there was the deal in terms of grain moving years ago. There's been discussion of halting aerial attacks on each other's infrastructure. The president has made it clear and certainly made it clear to us that all fighting needs to stop. And the Ukrainians have agreed to that proposal. They're ready for peace. And now we'll take that to the Russians and get their response.
It says, however, the outlet had to report last week that Putin was not ready to begin discussions as a potential ceasefire with Ukraine, providing some conditions are met. So we'll find out hopefully by the end of the day to see if these particular conditions were met. What do you guys think about this ceasefire with Ukraine? I'm not too keen on the resuming of weapons shipments. State Department said DC will also resume intelligence sharing. Not too fond on that. Not too fond. Let me know what you guys think about it. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Tulsi Gabbard strips access from top Biden aides. This is an article from Straight Arrow News. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard announced on Monday, March 10th, that the Trump administration revoked security clearances for former top national security officials, and legal figures involved in the case against Donald Trump. Number 47, the decision affects former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and former Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. Gabbard also stated that they are going to remove, limit, and take away access from Letitia James and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Braggs. James led the civil fraud case against Trump, while Braggs secured felony charges in Trump's hush money trial.
Former President Joe Biden's top national security officials and legal figures who played roles in cases against President Donald Trump are now locked out of classified information. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard announced Monday she revoked security clearances for former Secretary of State Antony Blinken, former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and former Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. Gabbard barred New York Attorney General Letitia James and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg from accessing classified information. James led the civil fraud case against Trump, while Bragg prosecuted Trump in the hush money trial, securing a felony conviction. The move follows an executive order from Trump, who accused them of misleading the public and engaging in political coordination against him. Gabbard also revoked the clearance of attorney Mark Zaid, who represented a government whistleblower in Trump's first impeachment case. Zaid criticized the decision, calling it a violation of due process, punishing legal professionals for holding the administration accountable. Trump's order also targeted officials who signed a 2020 letter suggesting Russia may have been involved in amplifying the Hunter Biden laptop story. He accused them of election interference and directed Gabbard to investigate others in and outside government for what he called inappropriate activity. In another break from precedent, Gabbard said the president's daily brief will no longer be shared with Biden. The Trump administration framed the move as a national security measure, while critics see it as political retaliation.
I don't particularly see it as political retaliation. If you remember back in 2016, Trump's first stint in office, we talked about the honeypot operation. The honeypot operation. I'll place a link for that video somewhere on the screen or in the description down below. There were individuals that were infiltrating Trump's camp during his first stint at presidency.
Jeffries at all about the CR since the text drop?
We have not since the text drop, but I look forward to talking to them about it. I can't imagine that they would just tell everyone to vote against funding the government when they are all on video 1,000 times saying that would be a great calamity for the country. It is a clean CR. There is zero reason for them not to support it, and I think it's pretty shameful that they're instructing their members not to.
And that's House Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday readying a vote today on a continuing resolution to keep government funded. And Advisor Jake Sullivan, New York Attorney General Letitia, Secretary of State Anthony, Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has revoked dozens of security clearances, including for former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, New York Attorney General Letitia James, New York City District Attorney Alvin Bragg, as well as the 51 intelligence officials who lied and signed the Hunter Biden disinformation letter. Gabbard also blocked them from accessing classified information, while Joe Biden will no longer receive daily intelligence briefings. You're on the Intelligence Committee. What do you make of it? What are they losing by this?
Well, what they're losing, look, it's completely appropriate. It's obvious they have abused the privilege. Not everybody gets a national security clearance just so they can have it. It's expensive to own. The government has to pay for that. And what they use it for is to go out and make more money by having contracts with people and businesses that need people with top secret security clearance and connections. They use it to grift. They use it just to make money. They're not there using it to make the United States more safe or better. They're using it to parlay themselves into making more money. And they have shown themselves to have abused the privilege. And once you abuse the privileges, they must be revoked. It's a slap in the face for everybody that maintains the right standards of decorum and lawfulness and doesn't abuse those privileges and use it as propaganda or something like that in a partisan fashion. That's not what's national. You're supposed to be focused completely on national security, not partisan witch hunts where you use it to go after the people and the party that you disagree with.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, we've lived it all. We've watched it all happen in the last few years. Congressman, real quick on this upcoming Friday deadline, do you think you've got the votes or will we have a shutdown?
I sure hope we don't have a shutdown. The Democrats have always said that we're
going to jump into that shutdown here shortly. Let me know what you think about Tulsi Gabbard stripping security access from Biden aides. I think it's a solid move, just like that gentleman said. These individuals are using their access to get information to deepen their pockets, to deepen their slush fund. It is not a good look. Let me ask you guys this. Obviously, if you guys had intel on particular areas, whether it's stocks, like i.e. potentially Nancy Pelosi husband has like the best stock picks ever. If you had insider information, you would crush it too. You would absolutely crush it as well in regards of finances. And this is what that party has been doing. Getting information, intel to deepen and further their checking and savings accounts. Speaking about deepening and checking and increasing your checking and savings account, $30 billion was sent to homeless to California since 2019. And where did all the money go? Where did all the money go? California officials are using audits to address concerns over the management of the homeless funding. Recent findings show mismanagement. Duh. A lack of accountability. And individuals from outside the state using services. The audit released on Thursday, March 6th of Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority revealed that the city is unable to track, how much of that money was spent on homeless programs. The audit also found that the city failed to reconcile spending with services provided, making it impossible to evaluate the effectiveness or deliver those services. This issue is not limited to Los Angeles. A report by the California Legislation Analyst Office was released during the week of March 2nd, showing the state has spent $37 billion on homelessness since 2019, and they're asking for more money. However, the report also indicates the state is underreporting a number of homeless individuals. In response, governor's office told Fox 26 it's simply not true. This is what Gavin Newsom and his party said. The audit did not report that the state has failed to track funding. The state distributed funding to local governments to address homeless through numerous state programs. All the money was accounted for. This is what Gavin Newsom's office said. Do you believe it? I don't.
If California uses audits to help get a handle on financing homelessness, what they found was mismanaged funds, lack of accountability, and the use of services by people who aren't even from California. An audit released Thursday of the Los Angeles Homeless Authority shows the city is unable to track exactly how much it spent on homeless programs. The city also failed to reconcile spending with services provided, making it impossible to judge how well the services worked or whether they were even provided. After the report was released, LASA board member posted on X, introducing a motion to create a consolidated county department to end this nightmare. It's another reminder of what we already know: the current system is broken.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The stock market continues to fall during economic uncertainty. Donald Trump had an interview, I believe it was Sunday morning, and kind of interesting. We knew that this was going to happen. We knew that there was going to be a little bit of turbulence because Donald Trump and the administration have to clean up a lot of mess. They got to clean up crap from the Biden and Harris administration. And during that period, just like I said at the beginning of this video, you know, when you rip off the Band-Aid, it's going to sting a little bit. But long-term, yes, and long-term, it's going to be beneficial for us as citizens and America in totality.
Still reeling. Look at that after a mass sell-off yesterday, which erased all gains since the November election. That's an election President Trump won largely on the promise of an economic revival. So the stock market has a trickle-down effect, of course, on consumer spending. Last month, consumer confidence dropped for the first time since last June, as nearly every income group says they are tightening their belts in response and in anticipation of the president's tariffs. And just today, airline CEOs releasing a warning that travel demand is starting to fall. But President Trump says this pain is only part of the transition. He says his tariffs will make America rich by bringing manufacturing back to our country. So in just a moment, I'll be speaking with the president of the Steel Manufacturers Association. He supports what President Trump is doing. We'll get his reaction to these newly announced tariffs on Canadian steel. But first, I'd like to bring in News Nation's Kelly Meyer live at the White House. Kelly, what is the latest on President Trump's economic response?
Yeah, hey there, Nicole. President Donald Trump standing firm on his recent tariffs and could get an earful potentially from America's top companies later today during a meeting. But he's even doubling down on some of his tariffs, especially on Canada we're looking at here based on this latest True Social post. He says here, based on Ontario, Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States, I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff to 50% on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States from Canada, one of the highest tariffing nations anywhere in the world. This will go into effect tomorrow morning, March 12th, he says. Now, Ontario's premier, the leader of Canada's most populous province, announced his province is charging 25% more for electricity to 1.5 million Americans. That provides electricity to areas like Minnesota, New York, and Michigan. Stephen Miller, he was telling our Blake Berman this about Trump's tariffs. Take a listen.
President Trump is now taking the necessary steps to pull our economy out of these multiple crises that he inherited. By definition, there's going to be a transition period to tame inflation.
So coming up today, Trump is set to meet with around 100 CEOs of America's biggest companies later on this afternoon, from Apple to JP Morgan Chase to Walmart, many whose market value has dipped in recent days with this administration's moves. Nicole.
Well, Kelly, we know Democrats certainly are not happy with everything that's happening. What are other Republicans saying?
It's interesting to see the divide with Republicans here. So many Republicans are standing by President Trump. We heard this morning from Speaker Mike Johnson. He was asked about the plummeting stock market and if President Trump needs to rethink what he is doing. Here's what he had to say.
Hit it as hard as you can to break up the balls on the table and send them to spread. Then you play the strategy of sinking them in the holes, right? That's what we're doing right now. It is a shakeup. And he said there's going to be a shakeup right now. But this is what's required, in my mind, to start the process of repairing and restoring the American economy. I believe that the strategy is going to work. I believe that, you know, sometimes when you shake up, that it's a violent thing on the table, right, in the game metaphor. But it always works out well in the end, and I think you've got to give him time. He's been in office for just over, 50 days. This is the 51st day in office. Give the president a chance to have these policies play out. That's where we are.
So, Nicole, some Republicans are worried, though, that these tariffs could impact the economy. We're hearing from senators like Maine's Susan Collins saying that it could impact border communities, as well as Kentucky Senator Rand Paul saying that this could impact trade in areas of Kentucky.
Guys, just make sure that your money is right. Just make sure that your money is right. Right now, interest rates on homes are at 6%. I believe they're sitting at about 6%. Right now, credit is fairly loose. I'm not telling you to go get credit cards and things like that. But if you have an opportunity to get some cash and with stain, I see why not. Interesting thing is these tariffs are going to increase prices temporarily. They're going to increase the import of particular goods. So it's going to be an opportunity to kind of buckle down on some finances, get you a P&L report. If you don't have a proper P&L report, if you're not looking at what's coming in, your personal finances coming in, going out, it's important that you get that rocking ASAP. I don't see anything incredibly devastating like I did in the pandemic era. In the pandemic era, prior to that, was a good opportunity to start pulling some cash out of particular properties because lending was fairly loose. Now lending's a little tight. So just an opportunity to put another notch on the belt to tighten up spending, reduce unnecessary spending, look at what you're spending, maybe alternate particular stores for a temporary increase in prices. Dems are talking about the egg prices. They're saying, oh, the egg prices are crazy. Listen, they killed a bunch of chickens. And that's the reason why egg prices are so high. And, you know, you can go to a local farmer, you can get local eggs, or instead of buying pasture-raised, cage-free chicken eggs for a time, just get some regular eggs, switch to some egg whites or whatever you need to do. The restaurants still have eggs. Wherever you go, McDonald's still has eggs, okay? And they use real eggs. I'm not saying go get McDonald's every day, but they still have eggs. And they haven't increased the price of an egg McMuffin. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. Drop that down in the comment section down below. But it's an opportunity to kind of tighten up some of the spending. This was the question that Donald Trump was asked about the prediction of the economy. And here's what he had to say.
Because there are rising worries about a slowdown. You've got the Atlanta Federal Reserve saying we're going to have a contraction in the first quarter. Look, I know that you inherited a mess, and you said that the other night.
I've only been here,
but are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. But I think it should be great for us. I mean, I think it should be great. It's going to be great ultimately for the farmer, you know.
Because there are.
So it's going to take a little bit of time, but we already know that. We already know that that is what we voted for. Bill O'Reilly had something to say about this as well.
To the No Spin News, BillO'Reilly.com, author of the upcoming book, Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst. Checked out the message of the day. There's some good news on terror. Sounds like you think Trump should be worried.
I think he should be concerned with the fear factor, certainly. And he should be looking to reassure Americans. I don't know if that would have any kind of immediate soothing formula, but you have to calm everything down. And then you have to explain, and just take Canada, for example. You know, why the beef with Canada? Just explain it so even I can understand it.
Do you
and
understand
I don't think
it?
that the White House has done that. I kind of do, but I have a master's degree in public administration, okay, from Harvard.
Well, yeah, and you just said you
kind of
do. And he says it's about fentanyl, and almost none of the fentanyl comes from Canada. Like, do you get it?
Not, there's a bunch of fentanyl
yes,
coming
there's
from
a bunch of fentanyl coming
look,
from
Canada. Vancouver is wide open hard narcotics market. And it's a disgrace what they're doing in Vancouver, Canada. But the problem that the White House has now is that just ramping up, and the explanations sometimes are murky. And Donald Trump takes it all on himself. And I think I would throw somebody out there who's a credible economist and say, look, where our beef with Canada is that they slap dairy product tariffs and energy tariffs on us way more than they have to. And they're just greedy up there. And they're just reaping a lot of money, taking it from us when they could be more fair. But we'll get a deal with them that's more fair. That's how you reassure people, because they will get a deal with Canada.
You're looking out for the folks. You look out for the folks. I get that. You think about short-term pain, long-term gain. If we were sitting here on, D-Day night reporting on what had happened on Omaha Beach, we would be talking about how many had died on the beach and in the terrible pain. We wouldn't be talking about winning the war. Americans don't really seem to do short-term pain anymore. As you pointed out, they're fearful. You have to allay that fears. In order for Trump to allay that fears, he basically has to go back on his hand and the things he's promised that he's going to do. So Canada and China and everybody else are scared and make better deals. Do the American people really get a deal with a 20% loss or 10% loss in their 401k on the promise of lower dairy tariffs?
It depends how long it goes. I'm a big chart guy. I'd have the chart out, okay, with the guy in the chart going, look, this is the deal we're trying to make with Canada, with Mexico, with China, with the EU. Those are the four, okay? Trying to make this deal. We think we can get there. So give us a little grace. And we know it's unsettling, but pull back a little. Look, I have stocks and I have the retirement funds, but I'm not going to sell.
Right.
No, we know you're not. No, but come on, Bill. Like you were in a different economic place. No, 17 New York Times bestseller. No, how much grace do the American people? I know, but how much grace do the American people give when they're hurting economically of, hold on, it's going to get better?
But they're not hurting economically. There's jobs are plentiful. They have cash. Prices are too high, but they will come down because of the easy fossil fuel access that we have in America. So my gas is down from $3.40 to $2.99 where I live. That's pretty good, all right? And that's Trump. And it's going to come down to $2.50, $2.40. And that's in a state, New York, that slaps a gas tax on. So Americans have to decide for themselves whether they want to live in a panic state, and that's almost assuredly destruction, or when they say, okay, we're going to give it a month or two, then we'll panic. Look, if Trump doesn't have this straightened out by this time next year, Democrats will win the midterms.
Yes.
And Trump's...
Thanks for watching. Go to join...
I agree with that. I had, people have asked me particular questions about, economics. Those of you that don't know, I've been in the real estate space for a very long time. They asked me about, the real estate economy and things like that. To me, this is going to take about a year. This is where I'm at. This is just my personal overview on this. This is going to take about a year to kind of get all sorted out. By the end of this year, September, we'll probably see a small decrease in interest rates. But it'll really, 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 really take effect. Everything that is being put into place right now by the Trump administration will be solidified by this time next year. We will have a booming economy. This is my prediction. But for the time being, just like I said before we started this clip, it is an opportunity now to make sure that you get your finances right. Make sure that you diversify your particular portfolios. You don't need to pull out cash unless you absolutely need to, like from stocks, from life insurance policies or anything like that, unless you absolutely need to. But there is opportunities here in America to make money. You can make money, just like Bill O'Reilly said, prices are just too high. The cost of goods are high. Cost of groceries are high. This is what we've experienced since 2020. So this is just a continuing of like, hey, we got to buckle up. We got to, kind of tighten up the belt straps a little bit to make sure that we're not having miscellaneous spending. That should be something that should be done anyways. Make sure that you're allocating, every dollar needs to be allocated to a specific resource, whether that's making you happy or investing in your particular future. This is just my personal opinion on it. Let me know what you guys think about it. Drop it down in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts about that. Canada has indicated that dark days are ahead. This is what Canada has warned. In a previous video, earlier on in this video, they started talking about the steel. I said, hold on, because we're gonna reference it here. Trump will double planned tariffs on Canadians' steel and aluminum to 50%. Donald Trump announced that he will double planned tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%, taking effect on Wednesday, March 12th. His doubling down is a response to Canadians' 25% electricity export tariffs.
Trump announced he will double planned tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%. He said those tariffs will take effect Wednesday. The doubling down is in retaliation to Canada's 25% surcharge on electricity exports.
Until these tariffs are off the table, until the threat of tariffs is gone for good, Ontario will not relent.
Ontario announced the retaliatory electricity charge on Monday. Premier Doug Ford says he's adding a 25% surcharge to electricity exports to Michigan, Minnesota, and New York.
And in politics, President Trump just announced additional tariffs on Canada, even as the stock market continues to slide over fears of economic uncertainty and his administration's trade policy. Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
Stocks fell further at the start of trading Tuesday following Monday's sell-off, Wall Street's worst day so far this year.
On again, off again tariffs, retaliations, cuts at the government, and it is making people feel concerned enough that we could see the economy slow down.
As the White House downplays concerns over the market, President Trump raised the stakes Tuesday. He announced on social media he's doubling the tariff set to take effect tomorrow on Canadian steel and aluminum coming into the U.S. It will now be 50%. That's in response to Ontario's 25% retaliatory tax on electricity exports to the U.S. U.S. farmers and grocers describe a roller coaster as they brace for tariff impacts. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins acknowledged the concern.
Secretary, what's your message to farmers worried about tariffs, retaliatory tariffs, and the uncertainty?
The uncertainty is real, and the farmers and our ranchers are concerned. It's going to be a little bit bumpy for, maybe a few weeks or a few months, but at the end, his vision, and again, what we're effectuating is that our American farmers and ranchers, but truly all Americans, will be moving into an era of greater prosperity.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are trying to head off a partial government shutdown at the end of the week. Vice President J.D. Vance headed there this morning ahead of a critical House vote on a stopgap budget measure.
This clean CR contains no poison pill riders, no policy riders there at all, no cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, zero.
But with one GOP hardliner, Kentucky's Thomas Massie, already saying he's a no, the White House confirmed President Trump is making phone calls to potential holdouts.
Speaker Mike Johnson calls out AOC and the Dems. Don't think I've ever agreed with her before.
Remarks before taking questions. They got a big vote ahead of them. Let's listen in.
Capitol Hill and on to cable news shows to protest President Trump's efforts to make the government more efficient. Now, they're planning to vote down this simple bill. They are going to try to shut the government down. Every House Democrat will participate in this. It looks like that would be a shame if it's true. I hope some of them will have a moment of clarity themselves and do the right thing, but it looks like they're going to try to shut down the government. It's a striking new posture for Democrats who have always said they've just been apoplectic about the prospect of government shutdowns. I put a video out about an hour ago on social media. I encourage you to go see that. They have been their own words. You don't need to trust us on this. But Catherine Clark, here's one little zinger from her, quote, "Not only is it irresponsible and purposefully misleading, but it's also a dangerous precedent to be threatening a shutdown," unquote. Now remember, this is in last year, years past. Pramila Jayapal, quote, "The tragedy here is all the civilian employees. It's the employees who are going to suffer," unquote. AOC, quote, "It is not normal to hold 100,000 workers' paychecks hostage. It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want," unquote. I don't think I've ever agreed with her before. She's exactly right. Jerry Nadler said, quote, "Shutdown is really an extremist policy designed to appeal to an extremist base and hold the whole country hostage." Yeah, we agree. So they and all their colleagues need to do the right thing. Democrats have been insisting they're fighting for federal workers. You're about to see again, on vivid display, very clear the contrast. You will see one team that is working to fund the government and make sure we do the responsible thing. And you're going to see another posing the CR because they've now exposed the truth. They're not for federal workers. They're not for anyone. All the people they've said in the past that are going to be harmed would be by their votes. They're using federal employees as props. They're using Medicaid benefits and Social Security checks as cudgels in this thing. The threat of government shutdown, they're using it as some sort of attempt to wrestle power away from the President of the United States, who overwhelmingly won the popular vote, the Electoral College, in every single swing state. Here's the bottom line. If congressional Democrats refuse to support this clean CR, they will be responsible for every troop who misses a paycheck, for every flight delay from reduced staffing at TSA, for every negative consequence that comes from shutting down the government. I understand they have an important retreat this week. Boy, I'd love to be a fly on the wall at that party. Comes at a critical time since they don't have a leader, a message, or a platform. And I'm just going to say this. If our Democrat colleagues want to increase their 21% approval rating with the American public, they ought to start by doing the right thing and keeping the government open. I think that'd be a great first step. So I'll take the questions. Chad.
Grant Cardone says that disaster, it's absolute disaster. Real estate investor gives bleak outlook on California. People have still not been able to access some of their homes, still clear out some of the debris. The leadership in California is ridiculous. I'm glad I don't live there.
Post says companies are warning investors that DOGE's federal cuts could hit the private sector and hurt business. Joining me now is Cardone Capital CEO, Cardone Training Technology CEO, and real estate investor, Grant Cardone. Grant, always a pleasure. Good to see you today. Thanks for being here.
Fantastic interview yesterday, Maria. Great job.
Thank you so much. What's your reaction to all these DOGE cuts?
Well, this is exactly how you handle a takeover of a new company, organization, a department, or something as big as the U.S. government. If it's working, replace the leadership, slide in, and continue to do what was working. In the case of the United States of America, it's a failing operation right now. We're overweight, we're overspending, we're in debt, and we need to fix it. So what President Trump did was this: get rid of the leadership. If there's leadership there. In the case of Joe Biden, there was no leadership. The guy's wandering around doing nothing. So when you eliminate that person, nothing changed. Then you go to the second step, or the next layer, which is start to gut AF as fast as possible all the people, up to 40 or 50% of the staff that's unnecessary. If nothing changes, nothing gets worse, you know you're basically getting rid of fat or overhang or people that are not being efficient. The third thing you would then do is start to rebuild the culture. We're in step 2 right now. He's getting rid of the fat and the waste. People that aren't even going to work, people that are not reporting, they can't tell you what they're actually doing. So that won't cost America anything. Will there be a dip? Yes, but actually people are going to be more confident. Your earlier guest talked about people wanting to invest in America rather than Europe. Long term, America will be a much better investment because we will get this fixed under the leadership of Donald Trump.
And what do you want to say about real estate right now, Grant? How does it feel to you where you sit? President Trump, one of his first executive orders, wrote an order about increasing supply. That's one of the main issues here, right?
Yeah, you have to have housing. You cannot get, prices cannot come down if you don't have supply. There's no supply because of regulations. Too much regulations, too much red tape. California, that I know we're going to talk about here in a second, I would expect, is the perfect example of too much regulation. The government doesn't move fast enough. Get out of the way, build supply. When supply goes up, prices come down. Instead, what we have is under Joe Biden, we had a Jerome Powell that was basically running Joe Biden's administration, keeping interest rates on homes higher. Regulations were still too high. So there was no supply and mortgage rates are impossible. The American people should be fuming right now. The inability to actually finance a house. It's almost 3 times what rent is. It's a disaster. And by building more supply, getting the regulations out, interest rates will come down, and they are already, making it possible for Americans to have that American dream again.
And I wanted to ask you, to get your take on this Wall Street Journal report, which says that January's deadly wildfires in California are having a major impact in terms of rebuilding Los Angeles, will be California's economic moment of truth, writes the Journal, as the state faces a housing shortage. Grant, your Malibu home was one of the thousands damaged by the fires. What is the current condition of your home? Where do you see California's real estate market today?
It is a disaster, Maria. Not one thing has been done other than a bunch of talk. The governor has done nothing. You see, this goes back to the same problem we were talking about earlier. If you want to fix a company or department, you get rid of leadership. You cannot make the changes that you need to make with the old leadership that caused the problems. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to fix a problem with the old leadership was there. Karen Bass should be recalled immediately. They should force Newsom to step down before his term is up. Nothing has been picked up. My entire neighborhood.
Wow.
This includes Altadena, the Palisades, and Malibu. Nothing has even been picked up from the locations.
That's incredible. Well, look, now Newsom has this podcast, right? He says he's got to change the conversation.
Nothing has been done in California yet. And he hit the nail on the head. He said, hey, we got to get rid of the leadership and then things can actually change. Cut the fat, get it gone. There's going to be some difficulty, couple months, but after that, everything is going to be okay. Then there's going to be more optimism in the market. We saw that even when Donald Trump won. Optimism in the stocks, optimism economically, just energetically went up. This is what we voted for, guys. Stay in there. Hang tough. Hang tough. We got this. Winning all day. Let me know what you guys think about all this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the California thing, what Grant Cardone said. Joe Biden's auto signature signing crap. It's crazy that investigation is going to continue. Let me know everything. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button on your way out. Share, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.